Okay. So you got all these aspects right. You got very good experimental design, and you've done quality, and you make sure. Now we go to the part that you want to actually share your result. This is why you're trying to publish, and you still want to follow standard. There's a little key emphasis that you need a good track record. You need to have good information, all the documented, ideally digital, rather than lab work. So there are initiatives and guidelines. So this is essentially a snapshot of MSI, Metabolomics Standard Initiative, and then how the guideline they come up in 2007 on how to report, how to write the papers, how to capture this information, what actually metadata you need to report at different aspects of your experiments, and even ultimately reaching the goal which your data could be reused and shared. So these are called MSI guideline, and there are core informations for metabolomics reporting. These needs updating. So it's similar to data quality other task groups, they're data standard task groups, and this is sort of our invitation for you guys to join, and because technologies change and being able to adapt to new technology, new parameters, new criteria, and it's a community work. So these are our way to capture this information and be able to share it via, for example, our repository at EBI called Metabolites. We use a package, a tool called ISA, which Felipe probably will point out to it, but we're skipping through a lot of information. Please come and find us and ask if you need more information. And based on these guidelines, we go through different type of metadata depending on technology, what to report, what is required for reporting. Again, could be a lot of information, could be very few information, so just balance for minimum information. But the more, the better. If you ask too many of these parameters, obviously it takes a lot of your time. So bear in mind that data sharing is not something that you can do in 5 minutes. You've written your paper, you submit it, and then you want to say, okay, I'm just going to upload this. No, it requires a bit of work. It takes time. And you get an accession number, then you can make your data available for everyone to be able to either download, but they should be able to follow what you did. So it's not as easy as maybe a lot of people imagine first time. It takes quite a bit of work. This comes to the portal once you capture this information. So this is our snapshot view of how you see and browse studies. And there's a lot of information about protocols, a lot of information about samples. They're all captured and visualized and metabolized that has been ID'd. Again, if you need more information about metabolites, there's a poster 158, I think it's Ken sitting over there, and there are other people from Metabolite team that you can talk to, and they give you more information, how to upload data, how to share data, and what is ISA. But mostly I'm trying to do what is it in it. So what is it in it for me? If I share my data, it's a lot of work. But I give two examples. There are two papers here. One from Roy Goodacre and by Pietro. So he actually managed to download a lot of data to try different scaling methods. So being able to reuse the data that exists and shared in Metabolite. Another example is done by Jan. So he had a method to try to work different prediction for different retention time. So data from Metabolite is another example that he used to test his tools. There are so many different examples that you can actually go and use by. Currently, there are Metabolites and Metabolomics Workbench. These are the two main repositories that share metabolomic experimental data. There are so many different, very, very good repositories and databases. They have reference spectra, mass bank, HMDB, and hundreds of others. These are the two, at least for now, that have all experimental metabolomics data. That could be your samples, your QCs, your protocols, your softwares, your packages, your tools, anything that you want to share. We have different sorts of flavors of experiments. So one example I give is from, for example, imaging or GC-GC type. So there's quite a large number of flavor of different type of analytical and experimental information out there. There are some people that share quite regularly. This is what ideally we want to see. It's not a one-time job. The first time it takes time. It's a learning curve. But hopefully when it's become a routine work, it goes faster and faster. We try to lower the barrier as well, try to make it easier to share data, to make this Recommendation would be to use a LIMS system, an automatic lab information management system, to electronically capture from day one, when you go from experimental design, how do you run it, how do you capture it, your QCs, your SOPs, everything that was mentioned, up to the end that you generate the result and keep track. And ideally, there are examples, for example, this one from Metabolomics Australia, that actually you can export in ISA and use that. There are also important on what is the actual raw file. So if you share a commercial format, and we only make it available and accessible to people who have similar software, that the data was acquired. So now the ideal is to convert it into some sort of open XML format. And there are numerous ones that will be developed, and I guess Stefan will talk more about their file formats. But once you have it in this format, it makes it possible for us to read a lot of these metadata from these formats and generate and populate the tables for reporting and sharing. So make the job a bit easier for you. So these are mostly done through a coordination effort with a lot of people known as Cosmos, which are a group of people who is trying to actually do that and bring these tables and file formats to make it easier and more accessible. So the message here being that trying to get the data available and accessible in a reusable way, so other people can be accessing it and being able to use the data. It's just not just Metabolite, but there are other initiatives, sort of Metabolomics Workbench. So they also do an NIH initiative. There will be talks later in this week that Ion and others will cover Metabolomics Workbench. But please share any of these resources. Ideally, we could actually exchange the data between repositories. Also, we have got a portal, which is kind of an answer. So this only points where the data sets are. So using Metabolomics Exchange, you can look for different type of data sets and use the links and go to the right repositories. So beyond every one of these works, there's a lot of people. So I'm quickly going through acknowledgement from Metabolite team to consortiums, to ISA team, and funders. So I guess Felipe or Stefan will talk about more